This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and things you struggle with most so you can have more energy and less decision fatigue about what to eat, how to move, and you can change your thoughts to Flip 50 with the life and the energy you love in this second half. My guest today is a hero, and he's making you into one. Dr. Partha Nandi is a practicing physician and host of the Emmy award-winning, internationally syndicated medical lifestyle show, Ask Dr. Nandi. Known as the UnDiet Doctor, don't you love him already? Dr. Nandi travels the globe speaking about his no-nonsense approach to food and fitness and how he combines Eastern and Western philosophies and the science behind the amazing health benefits of spirituality, mindfulness, and community. Now, just to give you an idea, and because I know already you're going to want to get in touch with him, I want you to have this. Know that it'll be in the show notes. You're going to be able to reach him at www.askdrnandi.com, and to let you know how much his message resonates, you can join his Facebook community of over 700,000 at facebook.com/Ask Dr. Nandi. That's Nandi. Partha, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me, Deborah. It's my pleasure. I love talking about how to flip 50 on its head.
Yeah, and here's the deal. You have so many great messages. It's going to be a challenge to narrow things down. I can tell you that right now. But one thing I'm really excited about is your upcoming book. So let's talk a little bit about that. The Ask Dr. Nandi, 5 Steps to Becoming Your Own Health Hero for Longevity, Well-Being, and a Joyful Life. And tell us exactly the date that comes out.
It comes out September 12th of this year, 2017.
Super exciting. So tell us a little bit. There's a lot of health books out there, so many diet books and movements out there already. What makes your first book, Ask Dr. Nandi, stand apart?
That's a great question, Deborah. And I think that the main thing is that we try to make it simple. We try to make it something that's realistic. Just like you, I'm sure, and I've looked at so many books on nutrition and diet and fitness, and most of them are just unrealistic, and they're super complicated, and it's just not sustainable. So we've had an approach to our community for a long time, and I wanted to give people the ideas that I give my patients every day, and I give my family and our community, and to give them an introduction to some of these ideas that have been around for a long time, but people just don't utilize them. Small changes that can lead to big results. And instead of just having people kind of chase their tail, almost every diet that's known to man has really failed, right? Even Weight Watchers is predicated on the fact that people will eventually get back on it. You stop the Weight Watchers diet and you gain your weight back. So it's an approach to your life, and it's an approach to your health and well-being. And the whole idea about being your own health hero is that you become an advocate for your health. You take charge of your life and say, you know what, I'm going to make this the priority, not something else, not the amount of money I make or just the material stuff. I want to talk about my health and what can I do to make that better. And in the book, I will outline 5 steps in how you can do that, and easy stuff that you can do consistently. And that's the key. We all I think deep inside know what to do, but then the how becomes the question, and how do you do it consistently? And that's what I try to do in this book. I really take the lessons that we've given to our patients and our community, and I want to give it to your community and have worldwide health heroes. That's my goal.
Love that. What a mission. And I really love the fact that, although I'm not sure I love it for you, because you have to be one crazy busy guy, but I love the fact that you are actually practicing, and then to write a book and launch it and want to share this global mission and message. You don't have a lot of downtime, I'm just guessing.
No, but here's the thing, I get asked this question quite a bit. It's just that why are you doing all this? Because you're already practicing and you're affecting people's lives. A couple of key events happened in my life, Deborah, and what I can tell you is that when I was 6 years old, I had a pretty amazing experience. I was like every other 6-year-old boy driving his parents absolutely nuts. And if any of you who are listening remember when your kids were 6, they were insane. So I was the same. However, all of a sudden I stopped becoming insane. And that was kind of fun for about a couple of weeks. Then they realized something was wrong. I stopped eating. I stopped doing everything except just listening to sports. So my parents went to a number of doctors there, but they went to, and I was in India then. So I was born in India, and it was in one of the cities in India, and I went to so many doctors, and I even went to alternative medicine doctors. I was covered in garlic for an entire day. I was covered in mustard oil for an entire day because parents, will do anything for their kids. But long story short, I finally went to a pediatrician. It was Christmas Eve. I remember it today. When I was 6 years old, and the doctor said, we don't have much time. If we don't admit him today, then we could lose him. So they admitted me on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and as I was held down and pinned and poked and prodded for 2 weeks, and finally, they realized I had rheumatic heart disease, and they treated me, and my parents and that doctor saved my life, and they're my first health heroes. They motivated me in how important of a mission is to go into medicine. That's how I became a physician. And then I practiced for quite a long time. And about 9 years ago, my dad, who was always super healthy, he's one of these guys, Deborah, that you never worried about him because he never had to go to the hospital or doctor, but he had a devastating stroke, and it changed my life. And I became a caregiver. I thought I was a pretty good doc, and I thought I empathized with patients, but I had a lot to learn. When I went on the other side, I realized how much we need to learn as patients, how much advocacy families have to give. So I decided then to do more, and I said, we've got to do more. And so I began that movement that we called the Health Hero Movement. Started in my community, my family. We started a television show, which aired in one television station, Deborah, in Detroit. Now we're in 95 million homes. And the idea is that you empower people not in times of crisis alone, like I had, but in health, in the situation where you're not, feeling like the world is about to end, and paying your health forward. And that's our mission. How do you give people the tools in sickness and in health to be able to thrive? And there are lessons all throughout the planet, and I'm trying to give those lessons in this book, and also the television show and our social media, all of it. So that's why I do what I do, because I have a purpose to me, and I have almost a responsibility to kind of pass on the things that I've learned, just as you're doing. You're giving people so many tips that can help them. That's kind of the motivating factor that keeps me going every day.
Yeah, powerful message. And that turning point that you had, I think, so big. But what I really love about what you just said is, not just waiting until there is an illness. It is probably when we sit up and we pay attention. Something's not working. It may be a wake-up call, but I love the idea that you're using the momentum of when things are going right, to help spread this message.
Absolutely.
When you talk about tribe, so I think this is really relevant right now. Explain what you mean.
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the 5 pillars or 5 methods is tribe, and the reason why I like that so much is because I would not be able to thrive without my tribe. And tribe is often mistaken for just being your family. A lot of us are blessed, and I am, and you are too, with the biological family that is very supportive and really are, basically the bedrock of everything I do. However, a tribe can be your family, but at work I have a different tribe. When I do my workouts or when I do my exercise regimens, I have a different tribe. And so a tribe is a group of people that can support you in what you're doing. Not yes people, not like an entourage of people that just say everything you're doing is great, but people who are genuinely interested in your well-being as you are theirs. And that support system can actually improve your health. We all know if your buddy calls you up at 6 a.m. and says, okay, let's go out and do what we're supposed to do, you're going to do it because you've committed to that person. The same thing happens. Not only are you more compliant, that you're more likely to complete something, but just as human beings throughout history, we've survived, even from the caveman days, is that we've been doing things in groups, and that this is no exception. When you try to do activities and anything that really helps you with your wellness, with any activities you do it better as a tribe. And I think one of the biggest crises we have in the Western world is social isolation. And a lot of people they don't have a supportive tribe. They don't have anybody around them to really help them through these tough times. We have epidemics of suicide, epidemics of depression. I think a lot of it can be significantly affected by having tribes, not just your family, but tribes of people that really support you. Okinawans, as you may know, they hang out with 5 people their whole lives, and what those 5 people do is actually support them through the good and the bad times. And why a physician is talking about it is when you have that tribe that supports you, you're then able to do something very significant, decrease some of the factors that cause inflammation and disease. And we're talking about the very familiar fight or flight response. We've had that throughout history, right? We've had that so we could, be when we're chased by the tiger, we have that response to be able to react. However, in our modern society, when you don't have support and you're stressed and you're worried and you're not stable in your environment, that same response comes in, and it over time can increase inflammation, increase heart disease, stroke, all the killers that we have. And so just simply having a tribe can significantly decrease that. And it's not just one person or a doctor like me talking about it. There's now objective evidence that when you have patients who are heart disease patients, stroke patients, hypertensive patients, whatever the disease is, when you have significant tribes, you actually do better in disease management, and you can actually increase longevity. That to me is amazing, that instead of taking another pill, you form a group of people that can really help you support your cause, whatever they may be.
Love that. Yeah, and I've long studied that support and the way maybe the aged and family members are looked at as far as sources of wisdom, and they're brought and they stay in the family culture and they give back and they have this sense of purpose. And we miss that here. What was the inspiration behind this first book, and especially why now, Partha?
It's really, I'll tell you, the main reason is what happened to my father. My father was such a huge figure in my life. He was my hero, and I recently lost him this summer, and for my entire life he's been such an amazing factor. And when he became ill, and what I learned through that experience really galvanized me to basically go and do something about it. I thought, like I said before, I really thought I did a good job as a physician. I thought I understood, but I really didn't. There was a lot I needed to understand, and so I thought the time is perfect. Also, people now in at least in Western civilization, especially in the United States, the way healthcare is going, with deductibles, with physicians not having the time, healthcare providers not having the time, you really have to champion your cause. You really have to go out and find out what it's going to take. And again, it's not just in sickness, but also in health. It's almost like if you ever used Google Maps, when you look at the traffic, there's these red marks, 5 miles down the road, and it says there's traffic here, you're going to get stuck. Well, you don't have that in life. You don't have those nice, navigation tools and radar and all this to tell you what's going to happen. You have to understand that in order for you to be able to thrive, you have to do the right things today when you're in health. And often, what is an outward appearance, there may be lots of inflammation, lots of disease happening inside your body, and so it's really important to be able to pay your health forward. So, in the book I talk about, one of the main things I talk about is you have to have a purposeful life. For me, I want to see my kids and their kids, graduate from college, and I want them to thrive. In order for me to see that and be participated, and you made an important point, and when I'm at the age where when I'm considered an older, when that happens, I want to be in that society. I want to thrive in it and not just exist. And so how do I do that? You have to take steps now. You can't do it at that time and you say, okay, I'm now ready to do this. You have to do it ahead of time. And so we show you in this book simple steps in which you can do that. Stuff that's reasonable, doesn't require you to buy 5 books or 17 methodologies, and it goes on, and make it realistic. Again, small changes yielding big results for you now and in the future.
Again, super point. I love that. And again, I'm drawn to this one point. So see it and participate in it. And that's so big. I think there are a lot of people who will agree, yes, that's what I want to do. Maybe I want to walk somebody down the aisle or I want to see that. But, to really say, okay, if I put myself in that instance, do you want to be watching it from the sidelines or do you want to be in it, in the game? I love that.
That's a great way to put it. I think
you have shared so much that you may have answered this question, but I really want to say, all right, we have listeners who are thinking, all right, I know I need this book because it sounds so user friendly. And the one thing that jumps out at me is that it sounds encouraging and hopeful and not as if it's lecturing and, harshly saying, this is it, you're doing it wrong. It's open-mindedness about how to take that next step. So what's your take on how can readers benefit most from this book?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that leadership takes two routes, I think. It can take many, but I think 2 main routes. One, you lead by example, you lead people and they respect you, or you can lead by fear, right? And often unfortunately, when we go see our doctors, healthcare providers, it's fear. It's if you don't do this or else. That just doesn't work long term. It didn't work, when I was a child. It doesn't work now. It works temporarily. But to me, the way people can get the best out of this book is to really see how they can make life their workout, how they can make life their experience. Instead of always saying, I wish I could do this. If I had this, I would be here. Instead, I say, flip the script. How can you incorporate your life into your exercise routine? How can you make your life more purposeful, right? How do you make mindful eating, but do it within the confines of what you do? So if you're someone, works a night shift and say, well, doc, I can't do it because I work night shift. I got to go home and I eat and I go to bed. Well, how do you change your life so that you can do the things that you want to and be able to do it in the future? So one of the great things I think that we talk about is that how do you incorporate the changes that you need to make and not have to do these drastic maneuvers and not make it always wishful. Like you talked about, participate in it and not just watch it, not just say that, I'm gonna that person's doing it or look from afar from the television. Participate in your own life. So, for example, instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym and work out in these extreme workouts, if you like to garden, if you like to walk the dog, if you like to do anything active around the house, all the studies I quote talk about longevity and increasing your lifespan by doing those activities. It's not the ultra marathons. It's not lifting giant amounts of weight that's going to really impact your life. It's how you incorporate movement into your own existence. That's the key, and that's what I talk about. We give many, many examples, workbooks, worksheets on how to develop, for example, purpose in your life. It doesn't have to be that you're going to, be the first person to scale and go to the moon, or be the first person to go and colonize Jupiter. It can be just simple activities throughout the day that's purposeful. One thing I tell people is if you can make a board in your house, in your bathroom, kitchen, and every day when you finish, on the left side, put down the activities that you feel are purposeful. On the right, the stuff that you think are not. Over time, you'll notice that you'll start to get rid of the stuff that's non-purposeful. It's just how it works. When you see it and you consciously make an effort, you can do that. People talk about spirituality and mindfulness. Well, doc, I can't meditate. But I say, well, what? Can you just walk on the beach? Can you walk in the garden? Do you like to pray? Again, the idea is how do you make it so these profound ideas are simplified so that they can use it in their lives. I give multiple examples of how to do it, not just what to do, because everybody kind of like, okay, I know what to do now, but how do I do it? That's the key. The book tells you how to do it, and do it in a way that all of us can really adhere to without having to change our lives in such a drastic way that it becomes unrealistic.
Good. Doable. That's so important. And I think what you're talking about, I've talked about quite frequently with listeners, is NEAT, the importance of that non-exercise activity time. If we were more active all day in our lives and really maybe also focused on and gave good thought and intention that this activity, even though I'm not lifting a weight or I'm not on a treadmill, it counts actually, and counts more than that 30 minutes I might have huffed and puffed at the gym. Love that.
And I'm going to use that if you don't mind, Deborah. I'll use NEAT. Yeah. I love that. No, seriously, that's a great way to put it, because everybody's looking for some, enormously profound activity when it's right in front of them. Make life your workout. But I like that. I'm going to use that NEAT if you don't mind.
No, please do. There's a lot of studies showing that, that is so much more correlated with, keeping away extra weight gain or fending off obesity. The link between non-exercise activity time, it's not whether or not you go to the gym. It's the rest of your life, the other 23 hours of the day that really matters.
That's exactly right.
Certainly uplifting if you're out there thinking, I can't exercise because of this, or I can't do that. If you can just find ways to get up, it all matters so much. So I want to ask you this. So you inside the room with patients, you've been practicing for 20 years. What kind of patterns are you seeing today in terms of illness and disease?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I'm noticing is that people are taking less care of them. They're taking care of themselves even less than they used to. I mean, I think that people are losing track of what's important. So, this whole fast food, quick hit, type of nature that we have in our society has really taken over. So instead of really taking the time and finding out what can I do about my health, it's always, oh, doc, I need a Xanax. I mean, they come in asking for a pill as their complaint, and so I have to take it backwards. John, so why do you want to take the Xanax? And then I talk to him about meditation and techniques that I refer to in the book. It's how do you then go backwards? What's happening more and more are people want shortcuts. They want to be able to just fix it immediately and are not taking the time. It's a symptom that is prevalent in all of our society, and healthcare is really no different. The other problem is the stuff they're putting in their mouth. Never, I think, in our history have we put as much crap as we do now into our intestinal tract, causing inflammation, wreaking havoc. Our intestinal tract hasn't seen this stuff ever in the history of our race, and so people are just not in tune with eating whole foods and trying to prepare their food. One of the biggest things I ask people to do is, can you prepare your food so you know what's going in it, and you can then make the choices of what you like. So I think that overall, the trends are that people are not really being aware. They're not being their own health heroes. They're basically trying to shortcut the entire system like they do with everything else. How do I get a quick microwave meal so I can just get it over with, instead of thinking about the most important thing and impacting their health. I tell the patients, when I'm seeing them, you are not only your genes. You have so much power in being able to shape your future. And the number one way to impact that is, the effect that you have from your hand to your mouth and what you put in it. And so there's so much opportunity, but people are just not taking advantage of it. That's why I think this is also a very timely reason for me to put a book like this out in the market so people can look at and say, what, I can do this. I can do it simply. We have an entire section on eating eating in a mindful way, and also recipes that are simple, so that you can spend the time with your family and not spend 5 hours cooking and still have a nutritious meal. You can still make life your workout. You can develop purposeful living habits so you can also benefit from that, and do it with a tribe of people. We show you how to do that. So I think those are the trends, and I think we can really make a big impact throughout the world by creating these health heroes.
And as you're talking about the tribe, again, I think there's so much value in that because of the resistance so often that, a lot of women listening right now understand exactly what I'm talking about. You decide you want to change, and then even internally, right? We all have our own resistance when we're trying to change, simply because change is hard. Even if we're choosing it and it's the right thing, we know it's good for us, it still is change. But there's also that external resistance because there is a large part of the population maybe who is not ready to adapt or to change. And so it can be really hard if around you don't have the right tribe. We do live in a great world now with social media, and I'm anxious to get your thoughts on that because I have some pros and cons to social media, but one advantage is no matter where you are in the world, you could find a community of supportive people virtually, if not people you can reach out and touch. What's your thought on that?
I think I completely agree with you. There's a group of people that I often reference when I'm doing my talks. It's the Royal community. They call themselves the Royal, and it's beroyal.com if you want to ever look them up. And what they do is they're a virtual community that supports each other, and it's amazing. And you're absolutely right. You may be one of the folks that are my patients. She moved from the suburbs of Detroit, and she moved to a small community, and she could not find a group of people that she could call her tribe. But like you said, she went into a group, a social group through social media, and was able to find through this virtual environment a group of people that she was compatible with. How amazing! And we couldn't do that before. I mean, before you may have been stuck, and you could probably do the best you can, but you can reach people throughout the planet. How amazing is that? I think that, of course, there's some negatives to social media, and a lot of people that are as I call it, posers. They kind of just pretend like everything is a way that's not, and a lot of us fall prey to it. But the pro is that if you can really identify groups of people that can invigorate you, they can be the folks that around the world or even around the country or your state that can hold you accountable, that can also say, don't worry, keep your chin up, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of ups and downs in everything we do. And I'm doing, like you said, a book launch now, and there are ups and downs with that too. There are ups and downs with everything we do. And my tribe holds me together. And as you know, a lot of people that work with me are not just in my physical presence. A lot of them are all over the country and the world. I have a gentleman from Australia. I have somebody in the UK. I have somebody in Hawaii. So it's an amazing thing, using social media, using technology to be able to bridge the gap. And I think we're in a great place in the history of humanity to be able to do things like that. And there are more techniques that are coming up. There are revolutionary techniques like heartfulness that even talk about how you remotely can connect with people in a way that's really just revolutionary. And I'll finish by saying that I think the next revolution of humanity is not the next giant phone that you can have in your hand or whatever crazy gadget. The next level for us in breaking what the traditions are is that the connection between humanity, the connection between you and I and everybody else, where the problems and some of the situations that we face become our problems and not just his or hers. It's humanity will connect in such a way, and we're doing it. And the communities that we are involved in are feeling that way. So I think if we do that together as tribes, I think we'll be very successful, not only in wellness and health, but in all of our activities.
I love that. Yeah. And I keep thinking about our listeners. So primarily female, right? And who many of them have raised a family, maybe not, but there is a certain connection that I feel when you talk about tribe and you talk about health hero. Describe to me what does it really mean to be a health hero? And in your community, at large, is there a bigger proportion of females versus males, or what's happening out there?
100%. Every man that comes to see me in the office, by the way, either says my wife will kill me if I didn't come, or the wife is there with them, or a girlfriend, right? I mean, it's just how it is. Unfortunately, yep. I'll just say, we are probably men, and I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but probably emotionally immature in certain ways. Like, women are the leaders of health in our community, 110%. So, the health heroes, to me, are folks that are really taking a stand and saying, I'm going to make health for myself and my community and my family the priority. And really, in our society, women do that by and large. Almost, I shouldn't say almost always, but very, very frequently. So I think women are the leaders, and they're almost, if where women take our healthcare is where it goes. Putting it simplistically, so a lot of my community, in fact, probably the majority of my community are women, and they're the ones who are taking the lead and taking some of the newest techniques. Not always in technology, but sometimes you have to go backwards in order to go forwards. Some of the techniques that I grew up when I was a little boy in India we're discovering now. I mean, so I think that absolutely health heroes are advocates, and women are leading the way. Just honestly, they are. And you go to any study to find out that's what you see. There are, of course, some men, and they're doing a great job, but women in general are the leaders. You're taking charge of the health of the community, and I applaud you for it.
And I think this is a great time to ask because you see it. Do you see this? So I would have suspected what you just said to be true. However, I often get to my listeners and those people who are joining our community, and it is really hard for them to put themselves first. They are all about getting everybody else in the tribe going, and yet may not yet see the value in the old cliche, putting their own oxygen mask on first. Self-care. Do you see that? Do you see that echoed?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you turn that around? Can you solve that one?
Well, absolutely. I would love to. And the example I give, Deborah, is heart disease. Whenever I talk to women, especially who've been afflicted with heart disease, they are the last ones to suspect that they could have a heart attack. And they are too busy taking care of everybody else to take care of themselves. In fact, with my show, I had two women who had heart attacks, and one basically took care of the kids, sent them off to school, helped her husband, and then said, I think I have this little kind of an ache. I should probably go in and see the doctor. And she'd really had it all day. She had a massive heart attack. And she was still taking care of everybody. It's just that it's ingrained in our society, unfortunately, that the women are the caretakers, and they'll take care of everybody else. But you're absolutely right. It's time. And what I tell people is that you can't take care of anybody if you're not around. If you don't have your health, if you really want to take care of your family and the community, you got to take care of yourself, right? I mean, that's every time we've had caregivers, I always tell them that. I said, you've got to take care of yourself. It's not selfish, because if you're not around, nobody's going to take care of themselves. And women in general have that role. They're taking care of everybody, which is very noble. But if you're not taking care of yourself, then who's going to take care of the community? And more important than that, I think that a true health hero really also advocates for themselves as much as their community. So I think that if we can approach it that way, and also the knowledge that women can get these diseases. Number one killer, as we're speaking, women have died. As we're speaking, women have died of heart attacks. And it's because of the lack of awareness of the women as well as people like myself. Women come in and they're not suspecting women of getting the diseases that they do. It's really quite sad that they're getting the pat on the shoulder saying, you should probably just not worry as much, or it's stress. It's a little bit of a cliche, but it still happens. So I think all those factors, if we could educate people, both the caregivers, like myself, like physicians, as well as the women, that these are diseases that can afflict you, and the fact that if you want to be a caretaker and you want to take care of everybody and be nurturing, awesome. But if you're not around, you can't take care of anybody.
Love that. Love that message, and hoping listeners, you take that one to heart, literally. Okay, so we've been talking about it. We've touched really on all of these, but I think for listeners, it would be great to summarize and state them again before we wrap up. What are your 5 pillars, and why are each of them essential to being a health hero?
And we talked about it a little bit, but to me, the most important of all of them is having purpose in your life. When you have a purposeful life, it really drives you to do things that are important, and including the other pillars I talk about, which is number 1, mindful eating. Be mindful in your eating habits. Have a nutrition plan, not a diet. And when you talked about in the beginning of the show that the UnDiet Doctor is because I feel like the diet means deprivation. Diet means failure to me. So you don't want to talk about a diet. You want to talk about a nutrition plan. You want to talk about how you eat mindfully. And when you have purpose and you have a purposeful life, you can then eat mindfully. You can also move with purpose. Like you talked about, the neat analogy is that you can make life your workout, because if you have a purposeful life, you'll say, you know what, I'm not going to just, take the car down the street. I'll actually walk. I'll actually bike, because I know that I am trying to do something. I am going to be purposeful and mindful of what I'm doing. So then the 4th pillar is how do you activate your mind? How do you cultivate your mind to be able to strengthen it? Every study shows that disease states will get better. Disease states will be easier to treat if you're mindful, if you practice yoga, prayer, relaxation, heartfulness. All these techniques can calm your body's stress level down, decrease cortisol, decrease ACTH. And then finally, do it all in a tribe. When you put these forces together, you are a force to be reckoned with, because guess what happens is that you then have health right in the palm of your hand. It's not just what you're born with. You're now shaping your own future. And so that to me is exciting. That's the new paradigm, where you're not just looking for the next pill that's going to solve your problem, but you're looking within to say, what can I do? What can I do to really unlock my own potential? And that's exciting to me. And that's what the pillars do for you.
It's really exciting. It's very hopeful and uplifting. It's a different medicine. Okay, so hardest question of the day. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so the one I ask, is there a question you wish I would have asked you?
The question I wish you would have asked me would be, what has been the hardest pillar for you, Partha, to be able to overcome?
The dirt.
Purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, purpose is number 1 for me, because it takes a lot of soul searching to find out exactly what it is that you want to. If you want to make it a big purpose, like I wanted to be purposeful in a large way, what is it that you want to do? Because you have to really narrow down your activities. So that's been the toughest thing for me. Again, it doesn't have to be the same for everybody. You can have small purposeful activities throughout the day if you want. You can make your life meaningful and purposeful, and know that what you're doing is something that you want to do, not what you have to do. And again, that helps your health by not increasing the stressors, not increasing your on button all the time. And for me and my wife, we jump out of bed. We don't just roll out of bed saying, oh God, here's the alarm, I can't believe it. But rather, we're like, yeah, because we're impacting people's lives. How cool is that? If you can change one person's life in your lifetime, I feel like your life is worth it. And if you can change more, how cool is that? So that getting that purpose took time, and it was difficult, but now that we have it, man, it's off the races. It's amazing.
I love that. That's so awesome. All right, let's make sure listeners know the best place to get more Dr. Nandi. Where can they find you?
Well, I think, I'd love for them to all understand my life's work, which is in the book. It's askdrnandi.com/hero. It's pretty easy, drnandi.com/hero, and you can get lots of information. And for your listeners, we have lots of amazing bonuses. We have an app that we've created that you can take your Health Hero with you to go. We've got free ebooks. We've got a private Facebook page. Lots of goodies that you can have if you order right now, even before the September 12th deadline. So I'd love for people to share and get the message and make it their own and really thrive.
Fantastic. I personally am running right over there. Dr. Nandi, thanks so much for being here. And listeners, if you had a question that I didn't ask, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com. That's all spelled out, no spaces, no numbers. And join us on the Flipping 50 TV Facebook page to get all the juicy resources that we mentioned and links mentioned on the show today. Visit the show notes at flipping50.com/podcast. And if you enjoy the show, please leave a rating in iTunes. And then share this with a friend so you can surround yourself with, let's call it a tribe of women on the same journey. What are you waiting for? Start Flipping 50 today.